Welcome to Zero X, a intergalactic game of maintaining the status quo. In essence, you are the race that has won the previous 4X game, so you're no longer trying to expand and conquer and exterminate. You're just trying to maintain things as is, with of course you being in charge. So let's go into the setup, and then later on I'll give you a little sample gameplay. So what we have over here is our player resource cards, and there's 5 different kinds. There's diplomacy, focus, trade, research, and military. And so the game starts off with 2 each in our deck, and this kind of shows the direction that our empire is going in. Focus is a type of wild card. I'll explain that later. But basically we use these to fuel our engine, and that comes up later, but we'll start here. And so then we have our round marker. So 0x is you're trying to maintain or survive for 8 rounds before the other races achieve their victory conditions, which in essence means that they've kind of supplanted you as the head honcho in the galaxy. So okay, so that's our round marker. Then we have our research cards, and so these are abilities, tactics, so to speak, upgrades for the various races and also yourself. So I'll give you a little overview here. If you look at the upper part of the card, that's the race abilities, and the little symbol, like the red symbol there, is when it's going to trigger. And at the bottom is abilities if you happen to buy it. So it's either or. Either they're going to have it or you're going to have it. They both won't take place. And of course you got the name and the stunning artwork in the middle. But we'll come back to that later. But at the game we shuffle them up. We got 5 random ones that are dealt out. Prior to that though, there's these cards called singularities. That happens to be what the yellow race, the Rizban, want to get. There's 3 of them in the game. You start with 1 in the deck, and 2 will be shuffled in later. So you're going to remove Singularity 2 and 3 at the beginning of the game. So then we come over here to the event cards, and these are, every turn we're going to reveal an event card, and it's either good or bad or non-indifferent, but something that you normally have to address. Now these insurrection cards up here, these come into play only if a certain card, it's called conspiracy, is revealed. Then these come into play. But right now there's 4 of them, and they start the game outside of the deck, but they may be added later. So we move down here to, these are our storage bags or our supply. We'll get a straight one here. And so there's 1 for each color, blue, red, green, yellow. So we have these, there's unlimited amount that can be in the game. And then if you notice in front of them, they each have a corresponding die. And this is called like the progress rate cube. Because basically every turn, at a minimum, we're going to add one blue, 1 red, 1 green, and 2 yellow. And so these dice just indicate what we're going to add to the bag. This draw bag here. Let me move this down. Oh, it might be locked here. That's interesting. Okay, well, we're going to leave that be for now, and I'll see why it's locked in place. But anyway, we would add these to the main draw bag here. And once these are set up, we have a randomizer bag. There's certain times you have to like randomly choose a race. And so basically what we do is we put 1 each of these cubes in there. And anytime you have to randomly choose a race, you just draw from this bag. So then the draw bag is normally down here. Then we have this timing card. And this is, if you remember where I referenced in the research cards, they have different times that they'll trigger and activate, or different phases. And so this is just a handy little reminder, especially later on in the game when you could have 8 or more research cards out there with different races owning them. So you can place a cube here basically to help you keep track of, or a reminder that, okay, in this phase, green has a card that's going to trigger. It's just like a reminder to help you keep track of things. Then we move over here, and this is the key here for us. This is the player action cards. So each one of these cards has 2 actions that we can take and their corresponding cost. If you notice there, let me zoom in here. The cards start off with, we start off with 2 cubes each. And that's how we're going to pay for our actions. And so, for instance, the military, we could spend 2 cubes to prevent 1 research card from activating this turn, or 3 to occupy a race. And so we'll go into these in detail later on, but each one of these has 2 different actions you can take. And at the beginning of the game, you can only take 1 action for each of these. And when you take an action, it's targeting 1 race in particular. So 1 action, 1 race. So basically, right now, we can only take 4 actions per turn. However, you notice like at the bottom of these cards, it says +1 trade action for each green research card. So up here, these research cards, if we were to buy a green one, it would come to us, we would tuck it down here below. And then if we had a green card underneath that, we could take 2 actions. So for instance, we could spend 1 cube, target 1 race, and then we could take a second action, spend 1 cube, target a different race. So that's how we can expand our targeting options, so to speak. So then how do we get these cubes? Well, that's where our beginning comes in with our cards here. These are we're gonna deal out during the round, and we're gonna select some, pardon me, and that will give us more cubes. And then ultimately we have the races here. So there's 4 different races, at least in this base version right now, and each has their own different goal. Let's look here. Probably the simplest is the gifters here. We'll look at the gifters. They want to have 12 troops total, or all the races have a combined 18 troops. So basically they're the warmongers, the military might in the game. And so if they achieve 12, basically they're unstoppable. But if they can't reach that, they're happy enough to cause chaos and anger within the galaxy. And so if everyone combined adds up to 18, that's basically a warlike situation, and they're happy with that. So that's their ability there. And then we have the Rizban. All they're about is acquiring these singularity cards, these devices that they're going to research. So that's their only goal that they care about, is getting those 3 cards. And if they do, they win. The Enon here, they're all about money and making trades. If they have a level 3 trade with every race, they win. And the Leards here are all about diplomacy. And so they want to get level 7 diplomacy, and they get that by anytime anybody can take a diplomacy action, they gain. They also gain. So we'll go into that later on. And so you get the various tracking tracks that they keep track of these things. And and then more importantly, towards the end here, how do they get more cubes? Well, basically, remember I mentioned at the beginning of the game that we would put cubes in here, and then we would distribute these. That's how it would work. It would distribute. But besides these 5 that we initially put in, anytime we spend or take an action, those cubes go into the bag. So basically they'll react to what we're doing. So if we're doing a lot of military cubes are going to be in here. And so they're going to start taking more military actions. And the same thing is when we choose our cards and focus our empire. Anytime we choose cards, that same type of, we gain the cubes, but they also gain an equivalent amount of cubes. So they're always reacting to us. And you'll see later on there are going to be a lot of cubes being distributed. And so that's how they're able to take their actions. And with their actions, just to briefly show you at this point, let's say the gifters again, since they're easy. If you notice there on the right hand side where it says military, there's 5 spaces. So those all can be filled up with cubes, never any more than 5. But if the 2 solid ones are full during the race action phase, they can take a military action. And I'll explain what the dotted ones mean, basically. But you can see military, they need 2 red cubes in order to take that action. So that's their strength, they're a military race. And then you see where the trade action, there's 4 solid squares there. So they need 4 green cubes to take a trade action. So that's their weakness. They're not really good at trade. And so we'll explain how all those actions works and what that actually means. But that's how they take their actions based on these cube distributions, and that's all based on what we do. So it's a nice little tight little circle, and we're just trying to stop them from achieving their goals. So that's it for the overview. I'll start off with a sample round, and then maybe later on I'll go into more detail of specific actions and give you examples. So thanks for listening. Bye. So forgot to mention a couple things about setup. When you place the races out, this is kind of randomly set out on a 2x2 grid, and then you put the starting race marker on the upper left one. So in this game, the Enam will be the starting race. This will rotate every turn. But when you place the races, they each have their own different abilities. But basically, you're going to put markers down or cubes down on their tracks at level 1. So their trade agreements are all at level 1. Their troops are at 1. The Laird's diplomacy is at 1, and so on and so forth. And then also part of the initial setup, 2 cubes of each are put into the draw bag. So there's a total of 8 cubes. And then we shuffle them up, and they get an initial starting setup at the beginning of the game. So they each got 2 random cubes on their race thing. So just a little bit more for setup.